Tonight, tributes flow for a Port Lincoln visionary, and Broken Hill spared from more coronavirus cases, but authorities urge vigilance.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening. Tributes are flowing in Port Lincoln following the passing of businessman and visionary Sam Sarin. The community is remembering the 84-year-old as an instrumental figure in helping build the coastal city and its fishing legacy.
His warmth, optimism, passion and joy for what he did touched many. A local figure who helped build Port Lincoln from the ground up, now being remembered.
He was always there, still in the background, but he was making sure that the city of Port Lincoln was going forward.
Sam Sarin was born in Croatia and moved to Port Lincoln from an early age, where he helped pioneer the city's fishing industry. A loving husband, father and grandfather, the 84-year-old was surrounded by family when he passed away on Sunday. The city's mayor speaking glowingly of Sam's legacy and character.
Sam was one of those that pretty well kept to himself. You didn't see Sam around the place boasting in any way whatsoever, but he was most significant in the amount of contribution that he had towards the city of Port Lincoln.
Tributes have been flowing online, his children writing, "You are the best dad in the world. You are our hero, our provider, teacher, loving, compassionate, with a heart of gold." His beloved wife Alida writing, "You are my rock, my love, and you always remain deep in my heart."
He benefited quite well from being quite an astute businessman along with other key people in the community. But Sam put a lot of it back into the community.
Sam helped build the city's hotel, marina and leisure centre, as well as open up export to markets overseas. He received a prestigious Order of Australia last year for his service to the community. Hurley Hotel Group releasing a statement today saying it was proud to have worked with Sam, who was a visionary in many ways.
He bought many properties through the city and he was a significant benefactor to many community groups in the city of Port Lincoln.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A code blue winter weather response will be activated from tonight for South Australians who are living rough with prolonged cold temperatures forecasted. The activation means Housing SA can make additional accommodation available for longer hours for those people in need, including in regional areas such as Port Augusta. Temperatures in some communities are expected to reach below 5 degrees for 5 nights or more. 4 new coronavirus cases in New South Wales have sparked fresh warnings from the Far West Chief Health Executive. Locals are being urged to remain vigilant in their community and continue to follow social distancing measures.
Gyms have reopened, sports are back playing, pubs and restaurants are seating guests. But health officials still carry concerns for COVID-19. 4 new cases in New South Wales and 33 in Victoria just today, raising worries of a potential second wave.
What it's telling us is actually the virus is still out there. Pandemic is not over.
Broken Hill and the Far West have avoided most of the COVID crisis, with just 2 confirmed cases reported over 2 months ago. Those infected have since recovered, with the local health district continuing with substantial testing and screening in the region.
Our test numbers stand just above 1,700 for the whole district. As a region, we've got all 44,000 people that have been screened. And Broken Hill makes up about 28,000 of that.
COVID-19 testing personnel are now asking locals if they have been in Melbourne in the last 14 days. More clinics have been popping up around the Far West, including in Ivanhoe, Wentworth and Wilcannia. Plans are in place to prevent the spread and, if it happens, contain a future outbreak.
We have put in place a process whereby if that were to occur in our region, we can ramp up our testing capacity.
Anyone displaying symptoms of coronavirus is urged to get tested immediately.
This is not over yet.
Patrick Ryankey, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Still to come tonight, calls for changes to electoral districts in Port Augusta and an incredible escape for an unsuspecting bird out for a morning paddle. Hello again. Restaurants and cafes in Port Lincoln say they'll be able to finally hire more staff and serve more customers as COVID-19 restrictions continue to ease. The new 2 square metre rule is said to be a game changer in helping the community return to normal.
More bums on seats and customers through the doors. That's what's being spruiked to be on next week's menu as the government forges ahead with lifting COVID restrictions. Restaurant and cafe owners in Port Lincoln say it couldn't come soon enough.
Just basically doubles our amount of people we can have inside the shop, which is amazing.
Starting next week, venues will be able to have one person in every 2 square metres. For eateries, it's the next step back towards normality.
At the moment, we've got 2 of our booths that are shut, that are closed down. So theoretically, we should be able to open those up, and that gives us an extra 8 people in the shop.
At the height of lockdown restrictions, Boston Bay Diner saw a crippling 70% revenue loss. There were similar scenes across the popular Port Lincoln foreshore, which transformed overnight into a ghost town.
Any easing of restrictions is great for our community, for people to catch up.
Really nice to get back into the routine of having coffee.
As restrictions continue to ease, cafes have begun hiring more staff.
We've seen a gradual rise in takings and plenty of people down the street as well.
We're just about at 80% at the moment with our staff, so hopefully if all goes well, we can get back up to the 100% mark.
But eateries say that's a long way off, with more restrictions needed to be lifted before that can happen.
Get a bit of normality back.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Members of South Australia's Electorate Commission have travelled to Port Augusta to discuss potential changes to the city's boundaries. One proposal would split the city, but the local council says the move would not be in the best interests of its residents.
Districts of Stewart, Giles, Frome and Flinders may see significant changes if calls from the Electoral Commission are met. It's identified population struggles and says the areas should be split.
Well, there will be change to all of those electorates and probably many of the electorates across the state, just because of changing population and the movements of people around over the last 4 years.
But the Port Augusta City Council isn't welcoming any changes.
We disagree with what the suggestion is. From what we understand, it's a mathematical quota situation, trying to get the numbers to mix differently, but it's important that we have our one member.
One proposal would see a split down the middle of Port Augusta, the west combining with Giles and the east with Stewart.
So we need to remain as an individual independent city and be represented by that member so that we can go to that one person who can speak for us strongly.
But in order for the Commission to comply with the Constitution Act, the move is needed.
Section 77 of the Constitution Act puts a mandatory requirement on the Commission that the districts can't vary by more than 10% plus or minus from the average quota across all districts.
A draft report is said to be made public in coming weeks, with community submissions welcome. Laura Milovanovic, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A seabird has had a lucky escape from being turned into shark bait, with this jaw-dropping moment captured on board a shark cage dive charter yesterday.
Oh God.
Oh, they're going to survive.
A passenger on Calypso Star Charters recording the terrifying moment a great white shark breached the water to try and snap down on the floating bird. Luckily, the bird escaped with all of its feathers. Stay with us after the break. A community rallies to support the family of a young boy dealing with a rare form of cancer. And Broken Hill Cinema soon to reopen its doors. Hello again. The community of Port Augusta is rallying around the family of a young boy who's dealing with a rare form of cancer. The family of 7-month-old Vinny has had to relocate their lives to Adelaide so their precious little man can receive the life-saving treatment that he needs.
He looks like any other little boy, smiling, happy and content. But at just 9 weeks old, doctors found a tumour in little Vinny's chest. The cancer is found in young babies and children and requires extensive treatment. The family had to make the move to Adelaide. A neighbour soon noticed their absence.
I'd see Sally walking past. She only lives just up the road, so I'd see her walking past with Vinny and, then all of a sudden I didn't. So I was like, oh, they really had to go to Adelaide.
So touched by their story, Amanda kick-started a fundraiser. Incredibly, already more than $14,000 has been raised to help Sally and Michael with everyday expenses.
I said, and really, cancer doesn't care if you are 6 months old or 60. It's going to come if it's going to come, and you've still got bills that you need to pay. Like, it just doesn't stop just because you have cancer.
The wider community jumping on board the cause, rallying around the young family.
Not even just people from Port Augusta, but, you know, I've had people from Adelaide, Port Lincoln, just all over really.
While the treatment is underway, it's not known when the family can return home to Port Augusta. But the expertise and support he's receiving in Adelaide is proving hopeful.
She looks at it as it's not the money side of it, you know, she looks at it that's all these people that are trying to help them out as well. So they're over the moon.
Vinny's parents, dealing with the unthinkable, say they're blown away by the kindness and love they're receiving from strangers, thanking every single person who's part of the outpouring of support they're receiving, helping them and little Vinny keep smiling through the hardest of times. Laura Milovanovic, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Schools around Whyalla are encouraging young students to get back into sporting activities as coronavirus restrictions continue to ease. West Whyalla Football Club trainers are happy to see their students back on the field, saying sport is crucial for their development.
Learning how to kick a football and coordinate a tackle strategy, these simple sport training exercises all part of a student's development.
Whilst we haven't exactly been in full lockdown like some other states and countries have, to be able to get back out with students from other schools, with other adults they don't normally mix with, the social side of it is immense.
They are excited to get back to a bit of normality and get their colours on and get ready for the big games.
The college hiring out the oval to sporting clubs in a bid to better the physical and mental health of young students.
Just seeing friends again, and I've really missed football because sport hasn't gone on for a while. It's been sitting at home, so it's good to get out here.
For young Alice, football is her favourite sport, growing up watching her older brother Noah play the game.
We kick, we mark, we handball.
For Kia Edwards, the field has been his second home for the last 8 years.
Yeah, I love footy. It's one of my favourite sports.
Excited for the first game of the season, his family ready to cheer from the sidelines.
Yeah, my little cousin comes to watch sometimes and my nana.
These young students cheering to be back.
Cheer boys, here we are, Westies.
The West Whyalla Juniors' first game will be held on Saturday the 18th of July. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
The projector is set to roll at Broken Hill's local cinema as the venue plans to reopen its doors next month. The Silver City Cinema has been busy upgrading its facilities during the COVID-19 closure, with moviegoers in for a treat on their return.
It's only a few more days before movies can once again be seen on the big screen.
Now we're allowed to open, we can about have 150 in our cinema. Which is quite good.
The Silver City Cinema closed its doors in March due to the coronavirus. Now, as restrictions ease across New South Wales, July 3rd will see the doors reopen.
I've got a feeling people just want to get out now, so we'll open for a couple of weeks and see how it goes.
While the cinema has been closed during the pandemic, a number of upgrade and cosmetic works are being carried out. Ashton wanting patrons to have a big city movie-going experience at the local level.
When I go to other cinemas, I get a little bit jealous because I want to make my cinema more atmospheric. Like when you walk in, I want that wow factor. I want the little kids to go wow, and I want mum and dad to say wow.
Among the changes, there will be a more enclosed foyer area, superhero murals on the walls and neon lighting. Of course, the cinema will be following COVID-19 guidelines before showing off the new features.
We must have sanitisers at the front door. There'll be sanitisers on a canteen. There'll be sanitiser on the ticket box. And we're going to have half an hour between each movie, and I've got a special solution that we squirt the chairs down.
With many studios pushing back movie releases to later in the year, the cinema will be showing films that have already come out. For more details, visit the cinema's Facebook page. Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll have this week's fish and tips and the weather with Britt. Hello again. Now to hear where the fish are biting, let's hear from the experts.
Welcome to another week around the Gulf fishing tips from Port Pirie. The coldest months are usually the best months to go fishing, and it's no different right now. So what we've seen is a lot of our anglers are heading out further afield to the Checkerboy, Ward Spit, Eastern Shoal area, and catching good squid numbers and King George whiting. Not always your quota in the whiting, but remember there is a lot of our open grounds close by, Third Creek patches and so forth, that should be doing well. I'd say don't worry about going further north to Barrows Beach and all that sort of stuff. Stay around the Third Creek patches and also around Port Davis area. You should find yourself a good feed of fish. Don't forget there's a few salmon floating around and you might well get a garfish. We'll see you soon.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Jewel of the North. Well, really set into winter at the moment, but the odd thing about that, Clem's old trick with the crabs, go there, try a little bit deeper, try those nets in for about 10 minutes, at least in the first pull, and they should start coming in. King George whiting, sort of south down Yatla Harbour and the bottom end of the Flinders, and you could assume they'd be up in Chinaman's Creek there as well. Salmon up and around Port Patterson, some nice snook getting caught around the Letty Spit Stick. Squid all along the shacks and basically everywhere like you would at this time of year. Try that last half hour of light, generally get a lot more than you will in the previous few hours. And on these really calm nights, try for garfish dabbing along the front of the shacks as well. That's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Locally, the squid reports have been pretty good, with some nice calamari caught up along the North Shore. Down around Taylor's Island has been good for big squid, and also the town jetty here locally has been producing some squid, not big ones, but not bad on numbers. Down the passage there's been some nice school sharks and a few gummy sharks caught in the deeper parts up near the islands. And down on the south coast there's been some salmon around the 1 to 2 kilo range caught off Wiseman's Beach, along with a few good sized tommies and smaller salmon trout. Moving over to Coffin Bay, the Farm Beach grounds through to Sir Isaac's are pretty reliable for whiting at the moment, and Greenley Beach has been offering a few salmon around about the 2 to 3 kilo size. Well, that's all for this week. We'll see you again with more tips next week.
And time to take a look at what's happening in the weather. Here's Britt.
Good evening. After patches of morning fog, we saw mostly sunny skies today. Clare had the region's low dropping to 0.6 degrees just before 6 o'clock this morning, but warming up to 14 degrees later in the day. At the other end of the scale, Port Augusta recorded a high of 19 degrees, Port Lincoln and Woodner 18, Whyalla, Port Pirie, Kadina and Cleve all 17, Broken Hill 16. Taking a look now at the satellite images. Scattered cloud across coastal areas today, with most of the Spencer Gulf region remaining clear and dry. Bright jet stream cloud crossed northern parts of South Australia. To tomorrow, northwesterly winds on the Gulf waters at 10 to 15 knots, shifting southwesterly in the afternoon and evening. Seas around 1 metre. Partly cloudy at Port Lincoln tomorrow, looking at a high of 16 degrees, Cleve fine and 15, Woodner mostly sunny with a top of 17. Mostly sunny at Whyalla, 16 the high, Port Augusta with light morning frost but warming up to a mostly sunny day, a top of 18 degrees, Kadina partly cloudy and 15. Mostly sunny at Port Pirie, 16 the top, Clare, morning frost, then fine and 13. Broken Hill, mostly sunny with a high of 15 degrees. Now let's quickly look at the weekend. Saturday, bright and sunny about the west coast and the Eyre Peninsula. Fine and partly cloudy elsewhere. Maximum temperatures mostly in the late teens, apart from Broken Hill with a top of 14. It's looking sunny on Sunday with highs ranging between 16 and 19 degrees. Broken Hill again the exception, expected to reach just 13. And finally to Monday, where it's looking to be another sunny day with maximums in the mid to late teens. And Louise, that is the local weather. Back to you.
Thank you for that, Britt. And that wraps up this Thursday evening bulletin. Thank you, as always, for joining us. We'll see you later on with updates. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.